A very good evening. And Ravindra Bhai, I want to reiterate that this is your second avatar here at AMA. Of course, we've been fortunate to have a relationship with the Dholakias that if one is not there, the other will still be there with us. And we always say, that finance ministers may come and finance ministers may go, but we go on forever. The budget analysts and Savan, you were right when you said that 43 years in a row is no small time. We started 1980. In fact, I've been seeing Professor Jaju since those days, and so many of the familiar faces in the audience. It's always a pleasure to be here. And friends, what I thought is, instead of taking the entire finance bill, because if I had to do that, it would be taking a few hours together. I thought I would focus on something that is on the top of everyone's mind. And that's why I've given this small little topic. Old may no longer be gold. You have to consider whether old is going to be gold. And if you understand it correctly, new can be even more attractive for you. So it is old and gold and new and you. But before I begin, friends, can we have the first slide? This is something with which I want to start. Ravindra Bhai, I have been, of course, at AMA 43 years. But since I started my profession in 77, it's been like this is the 47th budget in a row that I'm analyzing, starting from Mr. H.M. Patel's budget. And of course, even the budgets before them, from the academic interest point of view, I've studied them. This year's budget, a lot has been talked about the Amrit Kal. Amrit, 75 years of India's budgeting history. Look at these figures that I have placed before you, friends, and I want to point out that in India's budgeting history, individual taxpayers have got the highest ever tax relief of 20% in a single year. You take the current 22-23 and the proposed package of 23-24. And what comes nearest to this budget, I would rate this in terms of reliefs to individual taxpayers as the number one. The closest could be, we all remember what was known once upon a time as the dream budget of Mr. P. Chidambaram in 2008. And I've given some very interesting figures. Friends, in 2007-8, on taxable income of 15 lakhs at that time, the tax was around 4,52,000 with an average tax rate of 30%. And when he presented the budget in February of 2008, for the financial year 8-9, the year to follow, fiscal year, there was almost a 49,800 plus tax relief, which was the maximum that was given. And that was a whole combination of the rise in the exemption limit, the restructuring of slabs, and bringing down the peak rate, which used to be 40%, to 30%. So, as a collective measure, that resulted in if you consider 49,000 to the preceding year's tax of 4,52,000, it would translate, friends, to around 11%. And on a similar income of 15 lakhs, for 22-23, Savanbhai, you know very well, the tax is 1,95,000. The average tax for the current year, 13% on 15 lakhs. But believe it or not, it is true. And the tax now for the coming year is going to be 1,56,000 on taxable income of 15 lakhs if you go for the new scheme, bringing the average tax rate to just 10.4%. So if you take the 39,000 in terms of percentage to the 1,95,000, friends, it is a 20% tax relief. No finance minister, of course, madam made us wait for 4 years. So somebody may say, કે તો આ 4 વર્ષનું ભેગું કરીને આપ્યું 5મા વર્ષમાં, હા? અને એ પણ જો ઇલેક્શન ના હોત તો ભગવાન જાણે. But nonetheless, you always look to what is the reality today, and I would say that in this historic Amrit Kal budget, she has definitely given what we should all welcome with open arms. As far as individual taxes are concerned, I would say nothing short of a Panchamrit. So, the FM deserves full compliments. There are some small measures not directly related to tax, but very welcome. And one of the very significant thing, because I find that there are a number of senior citizen friends, even I belong to that community now, most of us do. And for senior citizens, he really gave good news. It has nothing to do with tax. But in the budget, he said, the senior citizen savings scheme, which currently offers 8% rate of interest with full security and everything intact, nothing to worry about. So 15 lakhs used to be the limit. That has been, fortunately and deservedly, raised to 30 lakhs. And if in the family you have a senior citizen couple, then obviously you can go even up to 30 plus 30 with first and second name, turn by turn, and make it 60 lakhs. The husband could very well give a loan to the wife, interest-free, and then the wife could earn, legitimately interest on that with her name as the first. So 60 lakhs, 8%, 4,80,000, 40,000 per month. The hard-earned savings would fetch something really tangible. Of course, what makes me wonder is, being a Mahila, showing Samman for Mahila was a wonderful gesture, but why such a small little Samman of only 2 lakhs? I wish, she could have been a little more large-hearted, and because it offers 7.5%. In fact, I would say that I've always been writing about 2 schemes which are my favorites all time. Right? For the past over 50 years, the PPF, and the other is the Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana. Of course, we do understand, Ravindra Bhai, that the government doesn't want to increase its debt burden and more so give these tax-exempt rates of interest. But nonetheless, and what is again mystifying, it is 2 lakhs, and that too for a duration of 2 years. It could have been for a longer period. Let's hope that it does receive a little bit of a review. But that is one of the, I'm taking these smaller points a little bit first because I want to devote time. I came with a firm determination that, since the past almost close to 32 hours, જૂની નવી હા જૂની નવી એટલે આપણને કંઈક બીજું જ યાદ આવે હા કે આ જૂની જતી નથી ને નવી આવતી નથી હા ટ્રેન સ્ટેશન પરની યાર So another welcome measure is, physical gold you convert to electronic gold. Again, a very imaginative proposal that, okay, you don't want to keep physical gold at your home, better keep it safe place in your demat, vault, this, that. But then it changes its form and shape. So it would be a transfer. You may have this gold for years together. Now if you take the historical cost, and under the Income Tax Act, even an exchange is a transfer, as you know, and it attracts capital gains. But here, under Section 47, a welcome provision. So these are some of the things. Interestingly, we can also feel the pulse, of the Gandhi family, irritating the the ruling party. And quite interestingly, I don't know whether you have marked it, because this is a small provision in the finance bill, but for the first time in the list of institutions eligible for donation under Section 80G, 3 institutions have been handpicked. અને જેમ આપણે પેલા દૂધમાંથી માખીને ઉઠાવીને આમ કરીએ ને, and with the explanation, in a way the explanation is correct also, that in the entire list of charitable or religious institutions or institutions doing some work for the public benefit, there are only 3 institutions which were recognized and put in this list, which carried personal names. There is no such other institution. So by now you would have probably guessed which are those 3 names which have been picked. Any guesses? Starting from Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Fund, Indira Gandhi Memorial Fund, Rajiv Gandhi Memorial Fund. They did not get a chance finally to get the 4th name in the row. Otherwise, even that would have been handpicked. So, finally, even the Income Tax Act is now, in the Amrit Kal year, free from the Gandhi family influence. Well, that was a bit in the lighter vein, no political overtones as far as I am concerned. I don't belong to any party. But this was quite interesting and amusing as well. Well, friends, I wish to devote a fair amount of time, and then, of course, there are some other provisions which can touch. I'll close with something which needs, I think, attention, and we all will have to raise our voices. But let me start with, the first slide, and that is old versus new, the tax regime we need to understand. Now, friends, this so-called new regime, along with the old, came in with the entry of the finance minister in 2019. And from 2021 onwards, we have had this scheme or regime in progress. Now, currently, the old tax regime is the default regime. there is this section of the Income Tax Act 115 BAC, and it applies to individual HUF, and the scheme is that old is the default, and if you wish to opt for the new, then you have to make a selection while filing your tax return. And then there are certain riders, as you know, that if you are not having any business income, you can keep on changing your mind from year to year. If you are having business or professional income, then you can do it once, but not thereafter. One important change, and very significant, is effective the coming assessment year 24-25, that is the fiscal year 23-24, the new regime will be the default regime. So everybody, prima facie, if you don't exercise your choice, you will be governed by the new regime. If you want to opt for you will have to exercise that option. However, as I'll take you through this entire exercise, I am going to impress on you that overwhelmingly, in majority of the cases, you may not want to look at the old. Start looking at the new and try to understand the benefits, the advantages, and make the most out of it. So, keep in mind, the first important change is that I am going to use these two terms, the existing new and the proposed new. The old is only one. So I'll come across the terminologies. I'll use the old scheme, existing new scheme, and the proposed new. Okay? So under the proposed new, as I said, the default regime will be this, but under existing new, the scheme is applicable only to individual and HUFs. There is an important change, and accordingly it will now be applicable to an AOP, that is an association of persons, except a cooperative, BOI, body of individuals, or artificial juridical entity. Now, pausing here, you are aware that when we talk of AOP, and as I'll take you through a case study later on, even a private discretionary trust generally attracts the maximum marginal rate, but in case of a private discretionary trust, there are two exceptions. One which is created under a will, or one where none of the beneficiaries have any taxable income. They are treated as AOPs. We'll see what kind of benefit they can reap. Next slide, please. So, take a look at the tax rates that have been proposed. You are familiar with the rates that are existing, so I have not repeated them. But keep in mind now that the personal income tax rates for the old tax regime, they continue unchanged. So what is the scheme? 2,50,000 basic exemption. So now you have two basic exemptions. Under old, 2,50,000. Under new, 3 lakhs. Under the old, up to 5 lakhs, you get the benefit of rebate. And the first slab is 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, which attracts 5%. Then 5 to 10 lakhs, there is a straight jump, as it was earlier, 20%. And then about 10 lakhs is 30%. So they have been kept unchanged. So I have not referred to them, I am just mentioning. But under the proposed new tax regime, friends, keep in mind that 2,50,000 is raised to 3 lakhs. And the other change is the tax slabs were for 2,50,000 each. 250 to 5, 5 to 7.5, 7.5 to 10, up to 15 lakhs, and then it was 30%. So now they have made it 3 to 6, 5%, 6 to 9, 10%, 9 to 12, 15%, 12 to 15, 20%, and then above 15 is 30%. So this is what you have to keep in mind, because all these things are then going to, how do they translate? We will take a look at it. Next slide, please. Old versus new, please keep in mind, both the regimes will have separate amounts of eligible rebates under section 87A. As far as the old is concerned, as you are aware, 5 lakhs is the limit. So your effective rebate is 12,500. If means if you do not opt out to go for the old, then you are governed by the new. In that case, 7 lakhs is going to be your limit for, threshold limit for 87A. So in other words, the amount of effective rebate is doubled from 12,500 to 25,000. So that is what you have to keep in mind, that your maximum rebate of 12,500, when we take the overall benefit, this rebate itself is giving an additional benefit of 12,500. The tax slab rates which we saw, they also, see, because of instead of 6, when you are having 5 slabs, and the way they are structured, you get advantage there as well. Next, please. I would say one of the best things that has happened is the reduction in surcharge. And also, surcharge is something which is, I think after a long time, the FM has been bold enough, because what happens is, nobody wants to give reliefs to the high net worth individuals. They think we'll come up for criticism. But I would say, this is something, આપણે કોઈ પાપ થઈ ગયું હોય તો પછી પ્રાયશ્ચિત તો કરીએ ને. So 3-4 years ago, unheard of in the India's taxing history, you should appreciate that somebody is honestly showing his income at 5 crores and above. He could have done otherwise, like many people do. But then you are punishing him, and then, as I always used to say, कि आपके सर से पगड़ी बड़ी हो जाती है. 30% is your maximum tax rate, and the surcharge on that used to be 37%. And add your 4% cess, so it went up to 42.74%, close to 43%. And then we say, our tax rates are internationally competitive, 30%. Well, there is a marked difference between 30 plus another 13, going to 43. Well, one of the welcome measures is the surcharge. Now has been brought down, and above 2 crores, it will be 25%. It will not get into the 37%. So 37% bracket has been, you can say, slashed. It has been removed. However, keep in mind, the government's focus, all these steps which you will see, you can very clearly make out the government's focus is, in the coming times, we want you to start living with the new. નવીની જોડે રહેવાનું, હા? હવે જૂનીને ભૂલી જાઓ. સાહેબ, જૂની ભૂલાય કે ભૂલવી જોઈએ? So, juni navi, sometimes at least even that gives us a little amusement, amongst all the taxing troubles that we may have. So anyway, I am very happy with the reinstatement of standard deduction. Even when the new scheme came in, the existing new, I very strongly advocated that the minimum that they should have done at that point of time was to have retained standard deduction for the salary. Well, finally, standard deduction of 50,000. So as far as standard deduction is concerned, the old and new are at par. There are a couple of other things, the employer's contribution under 80 CCD, then there is a deduction in regard to employment for business, 80 JJA. But barring those couple of them, basically the new regime, doesn't talk about any exemptions, deductions, etc. So what is welcome is that while, your maximum rate will now come down to 39, because 30 plus 25 plus 4 cess. So it will be there at 39. So a significant relief, and we'll see in one of the case studies later what it translates to. The standard deduction, along with that 50,000 for family pension, which is taxed under other sources, they have 15,000, even that is reinstated, which was removed earlier. I think these are very welcome things. Now kindly understand, friends, you may ask me, what is the logic of going towards the new? Because you want to give tax concessions, tax benefits which have been given. As I said, 39,000 in a single budget. It has never ever happened before. In fact, in percentage terms, it stands out number one. In absolute number terms, maybe Chidambaram's budget was a little more, but still in terms of percentage, this stands out. So, why new? As I, having been as part of the task force and knowing intimately well as to what is the government's thinking, friends, that what happens, either the litigations or we are living in Kali Yuga, there are bound to be mischief mongers. People create rent receipts. We know, we have been reading in the papers, the LTC scams, medical reimbursement, the fake kind of things that go on. And in a regime, there used to be a time when almost, I'm talking of the 60s and 70s, when almost every tax return was scrutinized. Now, in fact, Professor Jaju is here, he is aware, and my dear friend in the CPC, and our dear friend rather, Dr. Sivichain Matthew, I think the finance minister made a mention of it, and I think we need to give a round of applause for this fact that this year 46% of the returns filed were processed within less than 24 hours. Gone are the days when, you had to wait endlessly for refunds. And if a refund came to you, it would be an empty envelope. RPAD would be there, but the envelope would be empty. So then you would say, oh, kem khali gayo. So then you are obliged to go to the Babu. So Babu will then open the desk. Sir, here is your order. Pan su karvanu che? What happened once, an NRI, he was not getting his refund, so he thought, I'll try to get it on my own. Good old days, he went there. And he was told, su karvanu che? Or NRI doesn't understand this language, what is the meaning of su karvanu che? He says, why refund appanu che? Pilo ke pan su karvanu su che? Sahib, khanu kholi de, cover kaadhine maru refund apo. And they just could not match their minds together. Thank God, friends. Gone are the days when, you had to, I know, in July it is raining hard and with an umbrella in one hand and bagalma returno dabaine amare tyanthi bichara line ma ubha re bada. We have seen those times. Or, as I said, people being required to wait for hours and hours together. Sahib, cha piye che andar, time nathi, beso bar. And then a fishing expedition. We've gone through all that. Times have changed. CPC processing, faceless assessments. With the And there was a time I remember they used to say, oh, India માં તો કંઈ computer ચાલતું હશે, faceless તો થઈ જ કેવી રીતે શકે? Well, friends, even the prophets of doom have been proved wrong, and the system has worked, fortunately. So we are happy and lucky. So the idea in this new scheme, new regime is that, the government's thrust is on trust. Now every single rupee of yours, even if you don't know કે તમારી કોઈ બેંકમાં સેવિંગ બેંક એકાઉન્ટનું ખાતું તમને ખબર નથી, ભૂલી ગયા હતા, ફ્રીઝ થઈ ગયું છે, પણ તો એમાં વ્યાજ જમા થાય, there would be interest credited. Income tax department knows it. Why? Because annual information return is filed. So tracking your income was never a challenge. But what about tracking your deductions or claims that you are making? You can't be picked up for scrutiny in all cases. Even this time the FM said our approach is going to be less and less of scrutiny. So in this context, friends, I think it is in fitness of things that we have to forget about this. And as I was telling Ravindra Bhai yesterday, just imagine somebody earning 15 lakhs of income, 39,000 in a single year is his tax relief. What will happen? 39,000 either he will spend, it will help the consumption economy, or he will invest somewhere, or partly do this and partly do that. At least it is money which is coming in the economic stream. I am going to point out later, the tax rates have become so friendly as they are. It is time that, we get out of this shackles of black economy and whatnot. In this context, friends, I sincerely believe that we are in the right direction. And what was strategically a blunder in the sense they passed 2-3 years, but there were inherent flaws in the existing new scheme and therefore it never took off. Now with the changes that have been made, the new scheme is going to run. And people will get used to it very soon. So we go to the next slide, friends. And I am happiest about the leave encashment, non-government employees. Of course, we have to keep our fingers crossed because we don't know. This is not in the section. It comes by a notification. What date the notification will come and effective when? I really wish, at least this is the year Amrit Kal, they give it to everybody who has retired in this year. Fortunately, at least in their tax returns that they file, they can claim the exemption. This story of 3 lakhs is in 2002, because what used to happen always, even today it happens. The Babus sitting in the North Block, with due respect, I have very good friends, but it's a general Babushai tendency. It's not that it's meant for anybody individually. They would say, અમને મળે એના કરતાં તમને વધારે ના મળવું જોઈએ. You should not get more than what we get. So, they will bring in the exemptions and notifications, etc., based on what they are getting. So, in 2002, they were getting 3 lakhs. So, they brought in a provision that for government servants, completely exempt, and for the private sector, 3 lakhs. From time to time, the government leave encashment went on increasing. And almost around 25 lakhs is what they get maximum now. But nobody thought of the private sector. Even the public sector, because it's still non-government. And therefore, you get about 10 months of salary as your leave encashment. And say your salary while you are retiring is around 2.5 lakhs, to 25 lakhs you will get, if you have that accumulated leave. But only 3 lakhs is treated exempt and the entire amount remaining. At a time when you need it most to plan for your retirement, you have to pay tax on that. Thank God, that limit is raised to 25 lakhs. Of course, as I said, we'll have to wait for the notification. Next slide, please. So, friends, keep in mind the cumulative impact of the proposed amendments. Three things. One, rise in exemption limit from 250 to 300. Rationalization of the slabs from the earlier 6 to now 5 with breaks of 300,000 and eligibility for standard deduction. Together, friends, even 50,000 will make a difference. 30% of that 15,000. Your rebate 12,500. And then on balance on account of slabs. So, under the proposed new tax regime, friends, now it has been made attractive. And I'm going to take you through some case studies. Case study 1, please. Next slide, yes. Here, you may wonder, okay, what is that stage where the old and new will have a meeting point? And here is an example that if there is a gross salary of 15 lakhs 50,000, if you prefer to continue with the old, opting for it, you would need, apart from your standard deduction, other deductions to the extent of 3 lakhs and 75,000. So you have to almost, you can say 25% of your take home is going to get blocked, apart from the tax over and above. So, there is a debate going on that, this kind of a new scheme will hurt the savings and investments and all that. Friends, there are two views on that. You see, you can always, have your savings and investments, but do it your way. Why do you want only those prescribed listed savings, And some of them are obsolete, don't even make sense. So, friends, if you are taking 4,25,000 as deductions and 375 is your actual outgo on account of allocations, etc., your taxable salary under the old regime would be 11,25,000 and the tax payable would be 1,56,000. Now, under the new regime, same income of 15,50,000, you will now get a 50,000 standard deduction if you are a salaried employee. Your salary taxable would be 15 lakhs and you, without being obliged to spend a penny on compulsory, it's always optional, your choice to go for whatever you want. You can end up paying the same amount of tax. This is on account of, these entire incentives as a package. Let me move to the next slide, please. This is very interesting. Probably it has not come in any of the media, papers, anywhere, because these kind of trusts, which are discretionary trusts created under will, or discretionary trusts where none of the beneficiaries have taxable income, and they are not a beneficiary in any other trust. Because of this provision that AOP also is now to be included as part of the new regime, so such a trust on taxable income of 15 lakhs currently is required to pay 2,73,000. It will now come under that 1,56,000. So 117,000 rupees. If you want to do some smart and legitimate tax planning within the four corners of law, here is an opportunity that you can look at. Friends, let us go to the next slide because these people keep on asking, old or new, what should I do? So I am giving you some food for thought so that you can find the clue. Now, friends, how do you choose the right regime for you? As I said, you have to look at the deductions claimed. Your deductions could range from 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs in this example as I have given. Now, if you will see that the break even or cutoff is at 3,75,000. At that point, the old and new are same, 0. So you can go for any. But if your deductions are more than 375, then you would be better off going with the old. And if your deductions are less than that, then obviously you will see that if your deductions are only 2 lakhs, you will be benefited if you go for the new, because you will pay 54,600 rupees lesser tax. So 54,600, 39, 23, this is the table which you can just keep as a ready reference when you have to apply your mind to choose what it is. Okay? Now, let's go to the next slide, and that is Guru Mantras to remember. So, as I pointed out, where the total income is more than 15 lakhs, the break-even point is 375. Keep that in mind and then decide what to do. Sometimes you can even be smart enough that, okay, pool all deductions in the case of one member of the family and try to take the maximum benefit of deductions, everything there. Other cases, so one can be in the old, other can be for new. So it's all up to you, how to make up your recipe. And in case of salaried employees, I think the good news is that 750,000 rupees, friends, you don't need to do anything, no investments, allocations, etc. You will straight away, with the rebate of 7 lakhs and 50,000 of standard deduction, no tax. Next slide, please. Now here, friends, just take a look at this. Ravindra, I often say that if you really try to understand, how little the government is expecting from you to pay in terms of tax, in terms of average rate, you would rather say, कि अरे बाबा सू करवा चोरी चपाटी नी माथा कुट करवी. Just take a look. Up to 7 lakhs, your tax under the proposed new is 0. So currently you are paying 33,800. You will straight away. This is not the old, please. This is, in support of the first presentation that I pointed out, that really remarkable relief is being given, something tangible. So at 7 lakhs, you would, under current existing new, you are paying 33,800. Now it will be 0. So it's a 0% tax rate. Say you are at 9 lakhs. You are still saving 15,600. And what tax you are paying on 9 lakhs? 46,800. What is the tax rate? 5.2%. Just work out. At 12 lakhs, you are paying 93,600. The tax rate is 7.8%. And at 15 lakhs, friends, when you are paying 1,56,000, this is inclusive of the cess. Minus the cess, it will be exactly 10%, but with the cess, it will be 10.4%. Now, Savanbhai, as part of Deloitte, you have access to the global tax systems. Just look up. 15 lakhs is not a small amount. And we are not like in US that it's a joint return. You can file for yourself, you can file for your wife, you can file for your HUF, for your son, for your son's wife, son's HUF. So, easily 6 returns. That means you can end up, if you strategically work out, you are an investor, about 1 crore of rupees, and still with an average rate of just 10%. I would be one of the biggest fools, if I try to tamper around. The time when we called Chidambaram's budget as a dream budget also, it still used to be average rate of 30. But then, we had gone through that 97.5 and then 72 and 66 and 50. And I know 1985 It was not this hall because this was not there. We used to have meetings outside. But at that time, I remember when VP Singh said that, I am reducing the tax rate to 50%, there was huge jubilation. And Manmohan Singh in 91, 92, 40%, everybody was gaga. And when Chidambaram did it, I remember his words, he said, the 30% tax bracket that I am bringing, no finance minister would be able to ever match the tax relief that I have given. Well, I don't know whether it is you need that South Indian genes to do it, but what Chidambaram did, I think, Nirmala ji, he used to wear white, and here she came with all red, including the cover for her, iPad from which she presented the budget. But then it was like a red carpet laid out, for the common taxpayers. And therefore, no wonder today, this beautiful caption, House of Commons. You had it in the Times of India. So friends, what I am trying to say, I am trying to urge and appeal. Because even today, let me tell you, we may say that we don't have 7 crore taxpayers. No doubt, 7 crore IT returns are filed. Yes, why? Because there is TDS and TCS, and so majority of them to get refunds. How many taxpayers filing return above 1 crore? They are just a few lakhs. That's all. So we still have a long way to go. And there are some very useful measures that have been also brought in this budget. I'll refer to a couple of them. The business and professional community who are availing the benefit or who have been offered the benefit of, I think we can stop the slides because you've done, you can put it on the, just the last model, just leave it at that, the last one, that's not a problem. Yeah, you can leave it here. Friends, the limits under the presumptive tax scheme, and I tell you, this scheme has worked fairly well. For a small businessman or even a professional, a doctor, engineer, they don't want to go through audit and accounts and then, face scrutiny and all that. They would say, Baba, this is our turnover. These are our gross receipts. And the government has prescribed that minimum so much, 6% in case of, banked receipts, 8% if cash, and, in case of professionals, 50%. Now, both these sections, the limits have been raised by 50%, 2 crores raised to 3 crores as far as business is concerned, and professions is concerned, 50 lakhs to 75 lakhs. I think this is a welcome provision. However, keep in mind there is a rider that has come in along with this, and that is, so you will have a dual system. Because the rider is, the terms and conditions to apply is that if you want to take the benefit of that higher limit of 3 crores or 75 lakhs, you must ensure that your cash receipts are not more than 5% of your total receipts. So if your turnover is 3 crores, you should not have more than 15 lakhs of cash sales. And they say that even if somebody is giving you non-account pay checks, that would be treated as cash. So you have to keep this in mind. So in case, suppose somebody's business is, by the very nature of it, involving cash, then you will continue with your old, that is this 2 crores and that, which is also fine. Well, friends, it's almost 8 o'clock and there are many other small little measures. I will very quickly take up just a couple of them which affect, I believe, this audience, and therefore, now the life insurance, the fancy or fad for the insurance policies only from the point of view of tax saving, I think is going to be a distant dream. Because the HNIs, in fact, you may wonder why, somebody who is rolling in crores, would need insurance. Because the irony of insurance is those who need it, they can't afford it. And those who can really afford it, the question is, do they need it? They are more worried about inheritance tax. Where is the question of insurance for them? But that's the irony. But nonetheless, such insurance was being sold to these HNIs. Why? Because they would be told, "Arey, sahib, aap tax bache che, you get this return, no tax, this, that." And then all kinds of... So finally, first they brought in ULIPs, unit-linked insurance plans, 2 years ago, saying that you have to look at 2.5 lakhs. If anything beyond that, you will end up, losing the exemption. Otherwise, then in case of death, no problem. The same situation here in life insurance. They say that if, again, they are so generous. They say, okay, doors are open until 31st March. So, today now I found, people running at double the speed with their bags. Sahib, 31 March sudhi haji chance che karine. Because they said in the memorandum that we will not disturb any of the earlier policies. But whatever it is, friends, effective 1st April 23, next year onwards, if the aggregate insurance premium is more than 5 lakhs, those policies will not be eligible for the exemption under 1010D. Otherwise, then in case of death. ATC, you have to gradually now start forgetting, Because even yesterday, Sahib, ATC, are main kru ATC. People are obsessed with that. Because tamare tax bachavanu seedho sado rasto che, why do you want to ATC? Then friends, again, and I think there is nothing wrong about it, people used to sell their land for 50 crores, 100 crores and then buy a super duper luxury bungalow, villa, apartment, 20 crores, 30 crores, 40 crores. The government says, sorry, we will allow you up to 10 crores. So friends, again here you still have a chance up to 31st March. If you still want to get 54F, get it done now. But from next year onwards, you will not get more than 10 crores, whatever it be. Listed debentures will attract TDS. There was no reason to keep them excluded. Market-linked debentures. Here there was tax arbitrage. What used to be done is, because they were listed securities and long-term capital gains attracted at 10%, they are almost like debt instruments. But they were also enjoying this. So what has been done is, okay, no doubt you have to give the treatment of capital gains because there is a cost of acquisition, there is a sale consideration, but treat it as deemed short-term capital gains and tax them accordingly. I will come up, apart from the provision, everyone plays today online games, those prizes and that. There again, the provision was 10,000 was the threshold limit. So what people used to do, 30-40 हज़ार no prize लाग्यो होए, got to break it up, in 3-4 different styles, and try to avoid the TDS. Because once you are in the TDS net, then there is tracking. So they said that if in a fiscal year it is 10,000, and they also brought in online games and everything within the scope of that. There are several other provisions, but I'll leave them aside, as I said, because constraints of time. I only want to ask you, having come this evening into this auditorium, what thoughts you had on the old versus new before you came in and before you go out now, do you think there has been some clarity of your mind in terms of thoughts, etc.? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, great. Unfortunately, we may not have time to get into questions today because it's already time. You know, we normally close at 8:15 and not later. So I am going to allow my colleagues to close, but I want to take up. You know, this is something which always keeps on happening. Ravindra bhai, you know, even Bakul bhai and I, કંઈક તો સળી કર્યા વગર ના રહે. અમૃતકાળનું અંદાજપત્ર શું વાંધો છે ભાઈ, સળી તો કરવી જોઈએ ને. સો જેમ આપણી પેલી કહેવત છે ને કે સોનાની થાળીમાં પણ લોઢાની મેઘ ઠોકી દે. Unfortunately, I fail to understand why this should have been done, but what they have done, you might have read in the papers today. You know, there is what we call as the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, LRS. Now, you know, when this TCS, tax collected at source, came, they said, like they have 1% on that car that you buy above 10 lakhs, justified, you want to track. But they brought in 5%, and there also for these educational loans there was a hue and cry, so they brought in a provision if it is covered by ATE, 0.5%, otherwise 5%, and then they put in a threshold limit, 7 lakhs. પણ અમદાવાદીઓ ઓછા નથી આપણા. એ શું કરે, દીકરાને મોકલવા હોય 15 લાખ રૂપિયા કે તો 3 નામોમાં 5-5 લાખ મોકલે કે 7 lakhs is a threshold. TCS જ આવે નહીં એટલે પૂછાય નહીં. So you know, who should be criticized? Well, removing a threshold limit also I can understand, because you know you don't want to allow such arbitrage. But what is the logic? From 5%, you are making a jump to 20%. As I said, even on an income of 15 lakhs, your average tax rate is only 10%. And here, you know, you are not sending out of your income. You would have your past savings or accumulation. You know, your son, daughter is an NRI and you want to support them for something. You want to make some investment in your own name. And yesterday the finance secretary was saying that, oh, this is all by, you know, those big people, and therefore, you know, why should they be spared? They all come in 20% bracket. Sorry. You know, these overseas tour package, where you used to have 5% without any threshold limit, now it is 20% without threshold limit. So you know, a small family, middle class family, now everybody wants to go, they want to go to Europe, they want to go to Singapore, they want to go to America. So the travel agent says, you have to give 10 lakhs, you know, towards the whole trip for the family as the foreign exchange contribution, which is part of LRS. So out of 10 lakhs, 2 lakh to bank dabai de. Tamara 26 AS ma joya avjo bhai. And next year when you file your return, you can claim the refund. Ridiculous. You know what will happen? I wish it doesn't. But if the government wants to open floodgates for this, I was talking to Ravindra bhai yesterday, the good old days of the Hawala transactions will emerge. What will you do? ભાઈ આપણે આ 20% આપણા કપાવા નથી દેવા. So then, કોઈકને કહેજો ને ભાઈ ત્યાં આપી દેશે બારોબાર, આપણે અહીં આપી દઈશું. Why do you want to create such kind of, you know, mischief? I sincerely wish, and I am requesting Ravindra bhai, you are going to have a tete-a-tete with Madam, you know, being part of, you know, the RBI's very elite group. At least, first of all, please compliment her. Even she might not know what I have pointed out, that hers is number one budget in these 75 years. So please compliment her for that. Tell her that at AMA we publicly applauded her. But after having done in the beginning, at the end we also said, બેન બે હાથ જોડીને કહીએ છીએ આવું તોફાન ના કરાવો. We don't want to go back to those Hawala days, you know. For God's sake, there is absolutely no justification for a draconian 20% TCS. So let's hope for the best. Otherwise, all kudos to the finance minister. I think wonderful things done on the fiscal front, and even more wonderful things done on the tax front. In fact, procedural provisions also, there are some very good things that have come in, but due to constraints of time, I'll wrap up here with a sincere hope that next year there'll be a new government. We don't know, a new finance minister or the same finance minister part of the new government. But men may come and men may go. The Dholakias and Patels will continue together. Thank you.